You're listening to the MatchKitCast with me, Ben Karpinski, bringing you closer to the athletes on the MatchKit.co platform. Welcome to another edition of the MatchKitCast with me, Ben Karpinski, the podcast that takes you closer to the athletes on the MatchKit platform. We're up to episode 23, and today's guest is, well, I wouldn't say any of our guests are really run-of-the-mill. They've all got fantastic stories from around the world. But in Devon Muller, we definitely have a unique rugby player. Devon, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you a bit more about my career.
You know, obviously, there's a huge rugby sort of happening in South America right now. It's going to be the first time there's a full-on professional franchise league kicking off here in March 2021. But before we get into that, and obviously how you're related to that, you're a South African guy who now makes Brazil his home with aspirations, well, very much reality of playing for the Brazilian national rugby team. So, I mean, the question I'm sure you get a lot of times, how did this happen? Where did this journey start and how did you get there?
Yeah, so my story is quite a crazy story. I matriculated in 2015 from Westville High School in Durban. I stayed there 5 years in boarding school, and that's basically where I learned everything I know there. So after I matriculated in 2015, I had some personal issues that got in the way. I got some scholarships from bursaries from Sharks Academy, Western Province Academy, Potchefstroom, the PIC, to go play rugby there after school. But then my mother got hijacked and she got shot. And unfortunately, there was no one at home to look after her. So I had to go home for a while and look after her. Started playing rugby, club rugby over there at Richards Bay Rugby Club. And I stayed there for about 6-7 months. And then all of a sudden, I just got a message from one of my ex-coaches at Westville Boys High School, Dean Carlson. And he asked me, hey, do you want to go to Brazil, play rugby in Brazil? And I was just a bit shocked, yeah. And I said, yeah, why not? I'm not doing anything at the moment. My mother got well again. And I said, yeah, wow, man, I'm still young. I'm 19 years old. I've always wanted to follow a path in rugby, make a career out of rugby. And so, yeah, I took the chance with both hands. And there I went off to Brazil.
That in itself, I've never heard that kind of story. I've heard of many talented South Africans going either to England or France or Scotland or Wales, or even, you know, up to Australia and New Zealand. These are normal migratory paths career-wise. So you got the call and you went over. Like, did you have any inclination of like how to speak Portuguese, anything like that? Did you know people over there at all?
So, no, to be quite honest, I didn't even know Brazil played rugby. That's just my honest side there. And then, yeah, so just one more thing I forgot to say is Dean Coros coached a guy called Bukes Kramer at Grey PE. And Bukes is an ex-athlete for Brazil Rugby, Bjerkes Kramer. And so he was actually the guy that sent a message to Dean Carlos saying we're looking for young players who is willing to come and live in Brazil to get citizenship and play for the country. And so then, yeah. So then I came to Brazil and I didn't know anyone, like I said, didn't know Portuguese, didn't know anything like that. And when I got here, eventually, that's when I started I met Bjerkes Kramer that played at Grey PE. I met some other South Africans, David van Niekerk, Jaco Botha. And over here, there was already quite a variety of foreigners over here. There was an Australian coach, New Zealanders, French. There was a bunch of people over here. So coming here was a completely new experience. Didn't know anyone, like I said. And yeah, but as soon as I got here, I settled down quite comfortably. And with a lot of foreigners being over here, it wasn't quite that hard to adapt as well.
So obviously to recruit or at least sort of attract international talent, Brazil must have some sort of plan as far as where they're taking their rugby program. Now, we know in your region, Uruguay, as an example, you know, they're starting to really kind of make some great strides. They had the big World Cup win over Fiji at the last World Cup. As far as qualification, you know, is it from youth sections onwards? Like what's Brazil's sort of plan as far as progressing their rugby program internationally?
So the big plan for us now, for the next couple of years, is for us to play the next World Cup in 2023 in France, right? And we are working quite hard on that. That's been our vision quite since the last World Cup already. It's that we're gonna play the next World Cup. Um, our junior sides played the under 20 trophy 2 years ago. It was here in Brazil in San Jose dos Campos. Our women's side is top nine in the world in the World Series there. So Brazil is showing some development, and the rugby is growing obviously over here. They have some more players. They don't really do much of recruiting outside of Brazil. I think I was one of the only guys that they actually bought to come across. The rest of the guys all came by themselves. But yeah, for now, the main focus is for us to play the next World Cup in 2023 in France.
So it's an obvious football culture. I was lucky enough to be there in 2016 for the FIFA World Cup, and it's an electric place. It really is, and football is part of the culture, the DNA. With regards to rugby, is it a sport that kind of gets offered at school level, or are there select clubs in certain regions? Like, what's the sort of feeder system that we're looking at here?
Yeah, so that's the thing sometimes that you look at that's quite worrying, because obviously I'm from South Africa, and what I'm used to is that when you're born, you get born with a rugby ball in your hands already, yeah. And over here it's completely opposite. They focus a lot on soccer, and they focus mainly just on soccer. At schools, they don't give rugby at schools. Rugby is completely outside of schools. So if you want to play rugby, you need to find a club that does have rugby, and you can start doing that outside of school. Ne? I play at a club called Pasteur Athletic Club, a French team, and they actually based at a school called Liceu Pasteur. And I think that's the only school here in Brazil that has rugby at the school, but it's not a school activity. It's out of school, so it's only done like from 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoons after the school already closed. So yeah, that's for me the only worrying side over here. But like we said, the rugby over here is growing. A lot of more kids that wants to play rugby, that wants to know the game of rugby. Not only kids, but adults as well. Being obviously rugby only starting to grow now. The sad part and good part is that people only wants to start playing rugby now, but some of them only it's late 20s already or early 20s already. Not never too late to start playing rugby, but if they could already started this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that already helped a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it definitely seems like you're very much in the first wave of this whole rejuvenation or just the implementation of a new sport in many ways. But how does the eligibility work? So obviously you've come from South Africa. Obviously acclimatizing in the country is one thing, but what is the eligibility as far as how long you have to be there and what requirements are you required to kind of follow through on before you can play for the national team?
So yeah, for me, I came across in 2016 August, I think. And for me, the rule was that I had to stay 3 years, and after I stayed here 3 years, I was eligible to play for Brazil, right? Um, if I'm not mistaken, I think the after the I should have been eligible to play into 2020. 2020 we started the pandemic, and unfortunately up until today I still haven't made my official test debut. But if I'm not mistaken, the rule has changed to 5 years, so it is a bit longer. Extra 2 years. You can ask me, 3 years already wasn't wasn't fun at all. Having to be at 3 years, being in the high performance setup and not being able to play anything.
Mm.
But yeah, 3 years, and then you could, for me, then I could play for Brazil. But I know the rule has changed to 5 years. So yeah.
Okay, so right now, obviously, Southern Hemisphere rugby, there's a massive shakeup. The South African franchises have gone away from the traditional Super Rugby setup, a setup that did incorporate Argentina, and with that, there was hopes for growth in South America itself. That's kind of broken up a little bit. Currently, we've got New Zealand playing their own Super Rugby tournament. We've got Australia playing their own Super Rugby tournament. And we've got South Africans kind of waiting at the moment. You guys over there in South America, you are now about to embark on your first sort of professional franchise competition. Tell us a bit more about that and where you fit in.
Yeah, South American has started a professional league now. It's called the SLAR, SLAR, and it's competed by 6 different teams over South America. There's Penarol, which is from Uruguay. There's Saucnam from Chile. There's the Jaguares from Argentina, obviously. There's the Cafeteros from Colombia. Olympia from Paraguay, and the Cobras Brazil Kingsy from Brazil. So this tournament is starting now. Tomorrow is the first game already. The boys traveled today. It will be based a month in Uruguay, and then the next month it will be based in Chile, because obviously for the pandemic, that's what needs to be for all of the athletes and coaching staffs to stay safe. We're playing home and away, but obviously with us not having a home game, all of the games you will play twice against all the teams, and then from there will be a fifth place, sixth place, semi-final, and final. And yeah, so it's basically everyone plays everyone, and from there we'll see where it goes.
So it's obviously quite a new thing, but I mean, there has been international tournaments in South America over the last few years. I mean, that's been going for quite some time. What are the big sort of rivalries that so like first timers to watching a tournament like this might need to pick up on? Like, who would be Brazil's big rival? Who are the guys that you're looking to beat the most?
It's a completely new tournament. It was supposed to start last year, but because of the pandemic, we couldn't start. But we were actually in Paraguay when the pandemic really started, and it was supposed to be our first game against Olympia. So we didn't end up playing any games, and we don't know any of the teams, don't know much of the players. Obviously we have a knowledge of some of the players because they play the South American Championship and all those things. But with a lot of foreign players being signed, a lot of Argentinians in the sides, there's a lot of players that we don't really know and what to expect,
So obviously, like where you are in your career right now, it's about trying to obviously, first of all, play and represent your new country of origin, Brazil, but obviously get opportunities to play internationally. Are you looking to go the sevens route on that path, or are you going to focus completely on the 15-man game going forward?
I played my first official sevens tournament end of last year. It was a South American Championship, and really enjoyed it. Great fun. Um, Really difficult as well. All the running. I'm a forward in 15s now, so for me it was. I love the contact and the tackling and all those things one on one. But for me, I prefer my 15s rugby. Being more time on the field and actually having more actions and all those things. So I do prefer much more 15s rugby. But you never know. I keep my options open. It was my dream ever since I was very small to be a professional rugby player and have rugby as a career. So for me, whatever comes up, I'll definitely keep my options open. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
With regards to going to like a new country, obviously, like you say, you've got this goal, you've got this dream of becoming a professional rugby player, and you're going to really stick to that. Just like acclimatizing to a new place, like what were some of the big difficulties coming from KZN, South Africa, to living in Brazil? Whereabouts in Brazil are you based?
So I'm based in São Paulo,
Okay.
in the city itself. The high performance center is based over here as well, and everything's about 10-minute walking distance over here. I would say the biggest difficulties for me was the language itself, Portuguese. Like
Sure.
I said, I never tried to speak Portuguese in South Africa. I actually found out when I got to Brazil, there was like two of my friends that could speak Portuguese and I was Brazilians, and I was quite shocked because wow, I never knew that, man. Could have actually started having a head start already before I got here. But yeah, so the language was quite a big adaptation to make. And also, there's not a lot of players over here and a lot of people over here that actually speak English. So it's or you speak Portuguese or you don't speak at all because they won't understand you. But yeah, for me, that was one of the biggest difficulties.
As far as travel is concerned, I mean, when you are playing domestically, are you traveling to clubs, very much around the São Paulo district, or do you go further afield?
So the clubs, we play a regional tournament called the Paulista, né? And in the Paulista, it's basically clubs that's in Sao Paulo itself. Then after the Paulista, you play the national tournament, which is clubs all over Brazil, basically. Um, they called it the Super 13. There was 13 clubs, but it keeps changing a lot with all the clubs coming up and clubs going down and all those things. But there is clubs from all over Brazil. And when we play, we do travel a lot by plane, by bus. And so we do travel a lot and play all over Brazil. The international games, the guys played across Brazil quite often as well. Some stadiums that I've never even heard of that they actually played at. So that is a bonus by showing the people in Brazil what is rugby now, because like we said, not a lot of people know what rugby is. So the more they play at new stadiums, new places, new things like that, the more exposure they give rugby in Brazil.
Now, obviously, from your background in South Africa, you played at the highest level in your age group, and now you've put a lot of work into your sort of strength and conditioning to be a big, burly, 107-kilogram open side flanker. How did you find the sort of standard of rugby when you got over there? Was it a little bit weaker than you thought, or was it perhaps stronger than you thought when you were actually getting game time?
Yeah, so just to correct you over there, 107 was my pandemic weight. That was when I hibernated at home. So I
Have
already
you, have you,
dropped.
have you cut down a
Yeah,
bit now?
yeah, no, I needed to. It was quite quite sad. But anyway, yeah. So being playing in Craven Week in South Africa, I was never one of the biggest players on the field. I think I was always the smallest guys in my teams. And the other guys were much bigger than me, and for me that was always a letdown, disappointment for myself. I knew that never changed anything on the field, because you just have to show heart and courage, and that already got you there where you needed to be. But yeah, so when I came to Brazil, I saw myself not as the smallest anymore. I could actually see myself being one of the biggest in the younger age groups, né? So that was quite a bonus. And obviously with my player profile changing a bit, I could adapt my game on that as well, né? So the hard hits and the running straight and all those things came by itself through the years. Like you said, also working on my strength and conditioning and all those things with the staff over here, that also helped immensely. So yeah, like we said, my profile did change a lot here in Brazil. The boys over here, they are quite big. There's some big players over here in Brazil that just needs a bit of work, and you can already see the transformation it makes with their rugby as well. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay. So, Devon, you have had a couple of setbacks, and currently, I mean, just last week when I was just chatting to you, you tested positive for COVID, so you have had to go through the quarantine, the isolation. What's the sort of time frame between obviously going through those precautionary steps and you getting some game time in the SLAR tournament that's taking place right now?
So yeah, unfortunately, last week I got my test results back and I was positive. And the boys actually traveled today, like I said. Unfortunately, I'm not on the plane with them for the moment. I have to stay at home, my 2 weeks quarantined. And then as soon as my symptoms stop showing, I have another 10 days at home. Then after that 10 days, I will do the heart exam there to see if my heart is still okay and all those things. And then as soon as all the test results are back to normal, I could join the buggers over there in Chile and Uruguay and hopefully get some game time over there.
All right. Well, as you say, it is a 2-month tournament. There are 8 teams. They're playing each other twice. Then we go into obviously the reckoning stages of the 5th and 6th, the semi-final and the final.
6 teams.
Sorry, 6 teams. Yeah. Uh, I was just still getting over the tongue twister of trying to say SLAR. So if you want,
Slar,
you want to find out more about the tournament, one thing I must say about the South American rugby setup right now, there's a fantastic app called South America Rugby. Now you go on there, you'll be able to stream the games, find out all the information about the teams, all the different fixtures coming up, and obviously you can find a bit more about Devon through a player profile. Of course, Devon is available on the MatchKit profile. You have to go to matchkit.co/Devon Muller. So it's DEVONMULLER 76. That is his unique URL. You'll find out all about Devon. You can find out all his social media handles and obviously track his progress as he goes for his dream of playing international rugby. Devon, thanks so much for your time today. I wish you all the best and no more setbacks. I think it's definitely character building what you've gone through. And when you do get that chance to really get some momentum, get a few games under the belt, I think you're going to achieve everything that you hope for and more.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ben. It was an honor to speak to you guys here at MatchKit. Let's hope everything goes well from now on and that the worst has already passed us, and so that we can move forward and move on and let the best still come.
Well, Devon, it's very much my goal. What I'd love to do is actually go and be a part of this tournament next year. It's just such a cool thing, like getting to understand South American rugby, like how diverse the countries are and how this game is emerging in that part of the world. It's hugely encouraging. So I think this time next year, with franchise rugby being what it is on the rise, it would be a really cool thing to be able to come over there and see what it's all about.
Perfect. My house will definitely be open for you. I'll keep my briar lit over here. I won't even put it out. And as soon as you get here, you let me know, and we'll definitely make a plan.
Okay, well, I'll definitely get some brandy, and I'll get some biltong in the hand luggage as well.
Just bring some extra clip drift for me to store here at home.
Definitely. Cool, Devon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Ben. Awesome to chat to you.
Ciao. Are you an athlete looking to better commercialize your career? Visit matchkit.co and see what this unique web builder can do for your sporting profile.